I wanted to work on my public speaking. I wanted to work on my confidence. And I knew the only way to do that was to get up on that stage over and over and over again. And so I did that. I got up on that stage over and over again. And every time I got better and every time I got easier because I didn't skip day one. Hey, it's Renee. Welcome to the Into the Wild Show, the podcast for women who want to build incredible mental strength to level up their business and lifestyle. I'm Renee Warren, the founder of We Wild Women, author, speaker, award-winning entrepreneur, and your host. Together, we will make you unapologetic about shining your light, growing your business, and turning you into a wildly confident and successful leader. This is for you, the visionary, the go-getter, the entrepreneur, and for those that need a real kick in the butt to get going and to dream bigger. Each week, I bring in leading experts and entrepreneurs to help you take leaps in the right direction, because I know the best advice comes from someone who has successfully done it before. So, are you ready to level up? Welcome to Into the Wild. Hey, you wild women. Today, we are talking about all the reasons why you have to suck at something first before you make it big. And all I can think about as I was saying, hey, you wild women, was the day I decided to launch this podcast. So it was April 27th, 2020. We were at the height of lockdown, and I had already committed to this before everything got crazy. I talked about it for months. Now, you have to remember, this is a month into lockdown, and I'd committed to launching this podcast, and I didn't know what I was doing. So I remember talking about it for months with my husband, and finally one day he turned to me and he said, babe, when are you going to launch this damn thing? Put it on the calendar and get it out there. Now, I had gone to a really cool event months prior to this called the Alt Summit, and it was hosted in Palm Springs, California. And I was sitting in on a talk where the woman who's a podcasting expert, she told us a really cool statistic. She said that most podcasts don't make it past 8 episodes, which floored me. And also, I mentioned this on a call that I had with Erin Trafford, and her episode's coming up in a couple weeks during our Master Your Marketing Mindset series next month. And we talked about all things podcasting statistics. So check that out. It's dropping in early October. But anyways, for the sake of this conversation, she said, most shows don't make it past 8 episodes. So I said, perfect. I'm going to defy the odds and I'm going to launch my show with 9 episodes. Again, I didn't know what I was doing. So I found this podcasting coach who has a podcasting community, and I hired her for a 1-hour long talk, a coaching session, and I had a list of very specific questions to ask her. And one of the questions was like, how can I not suck the most when I first start? And so she gave me a bunch of cool stuff, which helped me launch the show. One of which was, when you're launching a podcast, it's really important that the first couple weeks you launch with more than just 1 or 2 episodes. You tease it out with 1 episode, and then you record a bunch of other shows and you kind of sprinkle them out over the course of a couple weeks. Okay, so I was like, great, this is awesome information, and I did it, and it definitely helped. But I realized how much I was probably going to suck at it. And if you actually scroll back to some of the earlier episodes, please don't judge me, but they were not the best. They weren't. I didn't know what I was doing. And you know what? I knew that if I got the reps in, I would be great. And I am getting better. I'm in the top 1.5% in the world for podcasts. I throttle in and out of the top 100 entrepreneurship podcasts, depending on what country you're in. I'm getting great reviews. And you know what? The most important thing in this is I get people sharing with me how they heard something in an episode that helped them change paths or tweak the direction of where they were heading. And it made their lives better. And to me, that's like the ultimate ROI of this podcasting was that. So anyways, let's get into the reasons why you have to suck at something first before you can get great. So number 1, and this one is probably the toughest one, but let me just say it is the greatest one. Greatness requires you to be controversial. And what I mean by that is that you have to do things and say things you know people won't agree with. So I think of all the great people in my life. And even look at my husband, Dan Martell, is he says things online that are controversial. And while I agree with him, I know it's like, oh, that's definitely going to push on someone's bruise, or that's definitely going to feel like he's pouring salt on someone's wound, of which it does. And then there are people that jump in and they have all these hatey comments, of which these hatey comments used to really drive me crazy on anybody that I admire's account. And sometimes I would let them go free without hearing anything from me. But other times I'm just like, wow, this is a public reflection of how much healing you still need to do. And so I know that's one thing that kind of stops us from leaning into the thing that we really want to do, or growing the thing that we're growing, or, increasing our revenues, or charging more, or trying to land the ideal customer, because we're just so afraid of what people are going to say. But greatness requires you to be controversial. So that means that you have to and will say things that go against what other people believe and what other people agree with. So that could be a career path that maybe your mom disagrees with, or a business your close circle of friends find it hard to understand or they can't support. And you know that. But here's the reality. If we all did what others wanted or expected of us, we would have no ingenuity. We'd have no innovation. We'd have nothing creative. We are meant to go against the grain and to fight that good fight, to build our lives with passion and purpose, with what we want to do. So controversy doesn't mean that you're going against a big movement. It could mean something as small, but is so significant to you that maybe instead of being a doctor, like your whole family was, you're going to start a business, or you're going to be a teacher, you're going to do something you love. That could be controversy in your life. And I bet you lose sleep over those things. I did too. To this day, sometimes I find it very difficult to explain to my parents what it is that I do. I'm like, it's public relations, but they're in their late 70s. So to them, running a business means you have an office and a team and employees, and you clock in at 9 and you leave at 5, and you don't work in the evenings and you don't work on weekends. They don't understand that. Right now, at the time of this recording, it's 10:30 in the morning on a Sunday. I love recording my solo episodes on the weekend because it gives me time to just flow into these conversations. And my kids get their iPad time on the weekend morning. So it makes it easy for me to just jump on here and record. But that's controversial to some people. How dare you babysit your own kids with an iPad? And listen, I get it. We raise our kids differently. We approach life differently. There's different cultures, different religions. So this is just my perspective, but I do hope you understand the whole point of this message. Is that sometimes you have to do things and say things that are going to go against the belief system of your circle of people, your immediate circle, or that expanded circle. And it's going to suck because you're going to lose supporters. You're going to hear people say little sly, stupid, cheap shot comments, and that hurts. And they want you to feel that pain because it makes them feel more significant. I'm probably going to get torn a new butthole for this. But I do want to bring to light kind of what's happening right now with the whole Oprah and The Rock social media thing, where they shared a post together. And I love these two people deeply. They do so much for community and giving back. But they came together to pool an initial fund to help the people of Lahaina, Maui. And they both said that they would donate $5 million each. So between the two of them, that's $10 million. $10 million more than anybody else has. So what's happening though is now these people are just cutting them up in the sense that that's not enough. They're saying Oprah stole all this indigenous land from the people of Hawaii. Maybe she should just give that all back to help support these people. Or if you're worth X amount of billions of dollars, how come you can only give $5 million? What these people fail to recognize is the amount of work that these people put into becoming great. This is controversial to some because they think they need to give more. They're not doing enough. I guarantee you, almost every single one of those people leaving those comments have not done crap all to help the people of Lahaina. And maybe I'm being judgy right now, and I'm sorry. And this could be controversial too. The whole point is they're putting themselves out there and they're saying, hey, we donated $5 million. We don't expect you to donate the same amount. But hey, if you got $5, $10, $20, let's pool this all. Let's come together as a community, as a collective to help this community. I thought it was a beautiful thing. I didn't realize it was hurting so many people. And so Seeing comments like that's going to stop so many people from speaking up about something that means a lot to them because they know it's going to come with such hate. Yet they still did it because greatness requires you to be controversial. So number 2, you don't get to skip day 1. No, you don't. I remember the first time I did 75 hard. You ever heard of 75 hard? It is a 75-day mental toughness challenge created by this guy named Andy Frisella. I did it a couple years ago. And essentially what it is, you have to check off a bunch of things on a list, which is 2 45-minute workouts a day, one of which has to be outside, 10 pages of a book, follow a diet, no cheat meals, no alcohol, a gallon of water. I think that's it. I can't remember. It's probably, progress pictures. And when I say the list, it seems like a lot, but it's actually a lot. And my friends kept talking about wanting to do it. And they're like, hey, we're going to start this on Friday when we get back home because they were visiting. And this was like the weekend. And we just finished doing like 3 or 4 days of wine tours. And they were leaving on a Monday. And Saturday, I decided, you know what, guys? I wasn't going to do this, but I'm going to start tomorrow. And they're like, but tomorrow we're going to go do all these things. Like, why would you start tomorrow? And I said, because if I can start tomorrow and I can do this challenge while it's already difficult because you're visiting, because we have all these like wine tours and stuff set up, then I feel like day 2 and day 3 are going to be harder. Day 1 is actually one of the easier days when it comes to something like this. It's the day 2 and the 3 and the day 20 and the day 47 and 50 and 60 and 70 and 74 that are hard. It's like you don't know. You don't get to skip day 1. And by the way, day 1 isn't even the hardest day. It's the hardest days are the days when you do not want to show up. The hardest days are the days when you're like, I'm committed to this. I don't want to be there. Amy Cohen, she ran a summer series here in Kelowna called the Shake Summer Series. And she had, 7 events throughout the summer on a Friday, all day Saturday, throughout July, August, and into early September. And I committed to speaking at about 4 or 5 of them. The last one was 2 days ago. No, sorry, the last one was yesterday. Parents are visiting. My husband's running a 50K ultra today. There was so much going on. And literally every thought, every bone in my body did not want to go and do this talk. I had to be there for only an hour. I was like, I don't want to do this. However, I am committed to Amy. I'm committed to the community. I'm committed to this because I committed fully to this and many people are expecting me to be there. Why I'm saying this for not skipping day 1 is because the reason why I did this was for me. So I don't want to say selfishly, but selfishly, the reason why I said yes to committed to speaking in all of these events, not getting paid, by the way, was because I wanted to work on my public speaking. I wanted to work on my confidence. And I knew the only way to do that was to get up on that stage over and over and over again. And so I did that. I got up on that stage over and over again. And every time I got better and every time I got easier because I didn't skip day 1. The barrier to entry for most things is much lower now than they have ever been for starting a business, for getting fit, for getting healthy, because all this information is free and available to you online. You can do almost anything. You could probably do surgery if you wanted to Google something on YouTube. I'm not a doctor, so don't quote me on that. However, the only thing that's stopping us from getting to that next level is right between our ears. And you don't get to skip day 1. Actually, day 1 is your first day commitment. And believe me, it is the easiest day. Question for you. What is something that helps to build reputation, increase demand for your expertise, expand your network, increase your credibility, increase relevance, allows you to take better control of your message and perception, helps you to get more recognized, and is the most trusted form of marketing out there? It's public relations. And I know if you're listening to this show, it means that you are ripe and ready to unlock the next version of your business. I also know that you probably don't have an extra $30,000 sitting around to hire an expert agency that can do this for you. What if I had a simple solution that could help you achieve all of the above without the hefty price tag? What if I told you that you could have a custom world-class PR strategy built for you in a day with all the necessary videos to show you how to implement and integrate the strategy into your everyday business function? How would you feel? Well, I've got some great news for you. I have created the ultimate VIP day that allows you to play a bigger game with the guidance of a veteran publicist who will create your custom strategy with a vetted media list, creative pitch templates, and all the PR fixings you need to get way more recognition for yourself and your business. And it is a simple solution that you and your team can implement the next day. I promise you, this has been done by dozens already with some incredible results. It is called the VIP Day. It's that simple. It is the We Wild Women VIP Day. If you go to wewildwomen.com/VIP Day to learn more, you can either apply or you can reach out to me on Instagram at Renee_Warren to learn more about the VIP Day and how this can help you and your brand unlock the next level. That's wewildwomen.com/VIP Day. So the next thing is consistency over perfection. I always say consistency is your currency. Winning in anything means that you have to show up and do the grind. So for me, for example, going back to speaking at Amy's events, it was about me showing up. The first talk was good, but it wasn't great. I had way too much information to give in a 30-minute talk. The second talk was better. I trimmed things down. The third talk was much better. And yesterday's talk, I crushed it. I didn't even need a deck. I knew how to stand there. I knew the content these women needed. And now I can give this talk over and over again, and it would get better and better. Think about this podcast too, right? This is what, episode 203? When I started, not good. Nope. I didn't have the gear. I would record these episodes interviewing other guests without even turning on the video because I was too intimidated to be online. And now we post this stuff all over social. But I consistently showed up. Episodes get better. I have a cadence. I know how long they need to be. I know what people want to hear. And every time I show up, it just gets better. It is time consuming and costly. And I know this, yet I'm still going. And some days I'm just like, what's the ROI of this podcast? Believe me, there is one. There is one in podcast guesting. There's one in having your own podcast, of which I talk about some of the stuff in some upcoming episodes. So stay tuned. But it's all about showing up over perfection. You want to lose weight and get fit? It's all about doing one thing, 1% better today, 1% better the next day. That means maybe you don't have that extra cookie today. You drink more water. You go for a 10-minute walk, which you normally wouldn't do. And you start building on that. It's called the compound effect. It's not pretty. It's not perfect, but it's consistent. The next one is understanding the process, right? So the gift in sucking is that you get really either expensive or quick learnings. You get really important lessons. My important lessons has allowed me to build better systems and procedures. I've failed so hard in some circumstances that sucked that allowed me to enjoy the process and recognize the process. So going through the process of struggling, for example, it gives you a deeper understanding of the task or the skill that you're trying to master. And I think about the switch that I went to using Wave accounting to Xero to hiring a professional accounting team that has monthly reporting from me, which was, it's a costly thing to have. But at the end of the day, every financial decision I make has a smarter person behind it helping me navigate this. Onboarding to a new accounting platform that is more robust at what I was using was very intimidating. I sent out invoices to clients that didn't have a payment link. They're like, Renee, how do I pay? I'm like, I don't know, it should be on the invoice. It's embarrassing because you'd think one thing that is the easiest thing to achieve is to send an invoice that my clients can easily pay. Then I had some that I thought I had set up for reoccurring and they weren't. And so I had to go in and all of a sudden they were getting like 3 invoices at once. It was so ugly. But now I understand the process because I took time. I apologized to these clients. They just laughed it off. The reality is most people just don't care, right? So it allowed me to appreciate the nuances and the complexities involved in all of this stuff. So the lesson learned in all of this is, hey, try out a couple fake invoices to myself and then delete them after. That wouldn't have taken much time. It actually would have saved me time in the future because I wouldn't have had to go and update invoices and figure out how to connect payment system and all this stuff. So it helps me understand the process. And now I know how to use Xero And then when I train my VA in the coming weeks, she'll know how to use it too, because I've already been through it. And I think lastly, why you need to suck something at first is, without a shadow of a doubt, it helps you to build resilience. Helps you to build resilience. Struggling and failing at something teaches us all about being resilient. It helps you to develop the mental and emotional strength to persevere in the face of almost any challenge. So it allows you to overcome imperfection, because we all strive for perfection. It allows you to understand that failure can actually be a source of motivation to keep going. Here's one thing. And I talk about this a lot on the show, because I think for me, it was like a deep wound in entrepreneurship. And the more I talk about it, the more I realize so many people go through this. But there was once a time in my agency life that I was sued for wrongful dismissal. And it sucked so much for me at first because I'd never been through it before. And I also had these preconceived notions of what it meant to be sued. And if anybody has been sued and they were rightfully not at fault, then they understand that emotion, right? It's like, how dare you? That's insulting. Why would you do that? I didn't do anything wrong. And it turns out I didn't. And they didn't win. But it really stung and it hurt. It hurt so much because not only do I have to go through the motions of going through this paperwork and learning the legal system and hiring a lawyer and asking the questions and paying all this money. It was like, at the end of the day, I think I paid, well over $10,000 to win something that I knew was rightfully mine. That's just the nature of running a business, by the way. But it sucked. And the hardest part was the insult at the end of the day. The insult of receiving that email and receiving that phone call from the lawyer. I was like, oh my gosh, am I on reality TV looking around the corners expecting like Ashton Kutcher to jump out to tell me I've been punked? No, it was real. And I remember the moment it happened, I remember who I was sitting with at a coffee shop. And by the way, I feel like God puts people in front of you at certain times for certain reasons. And I happened to be, and hat tip to my friend Rich, I happened to be at a coffee shop just meeting on I think it was on a project with him. And I got the call. And when I hung up, it's almost like I was going to puke. I felt lightheaded. And he looked at me, he's like, are you okay? And then I told him he had been through this already. And so he's like, oh, okay, here's what you do. Boom, 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 and boom. And I was like, oh, wow. Okay, thank you. So he gave me like 3 things that I needed to do right away. And he gave me recommendations for a lawyer. What do I say? What don't I say? And it helped me out so much. And I was clueless at that time. But now, put it this way, if it were to ever happen again, I really hope it doesn't, I know what to do. I know what to expect. I know how much it's going to cost and who's involved and how long it takes. And yes, it sucks. But it's sometimes you can't avoid these things, right? So the other thing that happened actually recently, talking about connecting like all these accounts and accounting, is I've upgraded my systems. I've upgraded my accounting system, my payment systems, and all this to run more efficiently. But I knew the first couple months were going to be a SHIT crapshoot. And they were. So my Stripe, for some reason, was disconnected from my bank account and I didn't receive the emails. And I logged into the system and it was basically saying, hey, we're trying to send you all this money. It was like thousands of dollars from clients and it wasn't getting deposited into my bank account. And then all of a sudden now I'm accruing all of these expenses and they weren't automatically getting paid off because that's how my system is set up, is we have automatic payments so that we don't owe anything at the end of the month. And so I was like frantically trying to get all this technology set up. Finally figured it out. And guess what? When you do it once, it's like, it seems so easy afterwards. Just like using Libsyn, my podcast distribution platform. When I first started using it 3 years ago, it was ugly. They've updated it. It's a little bit more intuitive. I didn't understand it. But now I go in and it's just like boom, 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 boom. Push this button, do this thing, upload this thing, and there we go. And by the way, I don't even do it anymore. My podcast guy does it. But the whole like Stripe missing payment thing, I was like, is this payment, is all this money now stuck in the ether? Is it stuck between the realities of these worlds? Am I even going to get access to it? And I was panicking. And then it all worked out. But anyways, it allows you to build up that resilience. So sucking at anything the first time is like, you can't get better at something unless you've failed at it because you don't know that you suck at it. CrossFit would be another example. I am by no means a great CrossFit athlete at all. I'm like I'm not even the great one for my age or anything. I love it though. And I know that I suck at some things in it. But the more that I suck at it, the more I can focus on those little tweaks here and there that allow me to get better. I took a powerlifting course last fall, and powerlifting is back squats, bench press, and deadlifts. And there were 2 things that I did to upgrade the positioning when I was doing bench press. And it was just the position of my hands on the bar and how I had to lock my wrists, and then the arch of the back. It is the only, I think, one of, or the only heavy lifting movement where you are safe to arch your back. Because the way that the bench press works is that the bar has to come down to your chest. And the more you can bring that chest up, the less distance you have to bring that bar. So technically, the heavier you can lift. So practicing just those 2 tweaks were just like a very simple, like that tweak, allowed me to go from bench pressing 65 pounds to 80 pounds. Just like that. Anyways, I built up that resilience because I failed so many times, and I've done CrossFit for like 8 years and I couldn't get past 65 pounds in the bench press. And all of a sudden it's 80 because someone pointed out how I was doing it wrong. So anyway, if you're going to start a business, if you're going to go on a podcasting tour, podcasting roadshow, you're going to start doing something different in your life and you've been dying to, maybe it's writing a book or maybe it's whatever, losing weight or running a marathon, is you are very likely going to suck at it first. I don't know a single successful person that hasn't sucked at what they're doing right first. They started small and they just built on that. They just showed up consistently over time and got better and got better. Amy Porterfield's a perfect example of this. When she first started doing Facebook, I think it was Facebook advertising. I can't remember what she was teaching, or webinars or something. She would put on these webinars and maybe 1 or 2 people would show up, maybe nobody at all. And she committed to those 1 or 2 people. She would go through the entire presentation as though there was 100 or 200 people. And the next time she did, she got better. She figured out where she sucked at the marketing and she got better the next time. And then the next time. And then she started stripping away the things that didn't work to focus on the few things that did. Right? So that's another thing too. A bonus point is when you suck at something initially, it's probably because you're overthinking it or you're doing too much of something. You don't start to learn how to cook and become a chef before you learn how to cook or boil an egg, right? So there's steps to this, and it's all about building on that compound effect. So I'll summarize these points again. 5 reasons why you have to suck at something first. Once is greatness requires you to be controversial. You don't get to skip day 1. Consistency over perfection. And as I always say, consistency is your currency. Understand the process allows you to build resilience. So I hope that if you're trying something new for the first time, I really do hope you do suck at it. But most importantly is I hope you get back up and you do it again and you keep getting better and better and better. So if you happen to be sucking at PR, sucking at pitching, or sucking at creating a PR strategy, you know I'm the girl to help you out. We have a few spots left this fall for our Authority Booster Intensive, which is the PR VIP day. You can email me, Renee at wewildwomen.com. Follow me on Instagram, Renee_Warren, and let me know if you have any questions with how you can make PR a strategy coming up for next year in 2024 so that you can just increase your credibility, increase your authority, increase brand exposure, and become the go-to expert in your space. So until next time, ladies, peace out. So there you have it. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Into the Wild. To make this girl happy and to help reach other women who are dreaming of starting their business, please leave us a 5-star review on iTunes and everywhere you listen in. Also, if you want to find me in the wild, check me out on Instagram at Renee_Warren. That's RENEE_WARREN. And leaving you with one of my favorite tips of all time, the best advice you could ever receive is from someone who has successfully done it before you. Until next time, ladies, peace out.